we have reached the advertised start time, so we should probably get started. Firstly, a huge welcome to everyone who's tuned in live from around the world to watch this webinar and take part. This is the last webinar in our inaugural series of webinars which have highlighted how to and why become a chartered environmentalist or a registered environmental technician. Over the series, we've had lots of fantastic insights from registered environmental professionals, but today you just got me and Geoff Atkins, who is back again following a break for 2 webinars. This webinar is titled How to Become a Registered Environmental Technician. This will include the basic process to apply, the initial requirements to begin the application process, the competencies required to become an REnvTech, and time for some questions at the end. So first off, I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction to who I am, just so you know who's talking. My name is Phil Underwood. I'm the marketing executive for the Society for the Environment. My details are on the screen in front of you at the moment. If you have any questions following the webinar, then please feel free to drop me an email, or I'm more than happy to speak on the phone as well. So if you did have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. In terms of the webinar format, as always, and rightly so, I have the easy job of introducing, and then it's over to Geoff Atkins on this occasion to go through the main part of the webinar. We're just going to go through a little bit of information about what the Society for the Environment is, what we do, who we are, that kind of thing. So the Society for the Environment holds a Royal Charter, which was awarded in 2004 by the Privy Council. We are the custodian of 2 professional registrations, the Chartered Environmentalist, or CEnV register, and the Registered Environmental Technician, or REnvTech register. As the name suggests, CEnV is at a chartership level with the requirements of at least 4 years relevant experience and master's level knowledge. REnvTech is our technician level registration, with the requirements of at least 2 years of relevant experience and knowledge up to level 3. In the UK, that's the likes of A-level or level 3 MVQ and so on. For this webinar, we'll be focusing on REnvTech professional registration specifically. The Society operates as an umbrella organisation, currently with 25 professional bodies as constituent bodies. At present, 2 of our constituent bodies have been successful in gaining a license to award the REnvTech registration to its members, with a number of constituent bodies interested in taking on the license. 24 of the constituent bodies currently hold a license to award the Chartered Environmentalist registration. The number of CEnVs and REnvTechs currently stands at around, well, just over 7,300, and a small percentage of which are REnvTech. The Society also recognise exceptional contributions of 71 individuals by awarding them honorary fellowship of the Society. And before we move on to the main content of the webinar, if you're interested to hear more about the Chartered Environmentalist registration, if you take a look at our recorded webinars that we've done previously, which can be found on our website, and the website address is on the screen in front of you. They're also available on the Society for the Environment YouTube channel if you prefer to go on that platform. So now, an introduction to Geoff. So Geoff's going to be running through the main part of the webinar, how to become a registered environmental technician. So he is our resident expert for today. Over to you, Geoff.
Thanks, Phil, and thanks to all of you for joining us for this webinar. A registered environmental technician, REnvTech, is a professional who has been registered as such by a licensed body after demonstrating that he or she applies environmental knowledge, understanding and skills to protect and enhance the environment in a sustainable way. It may not sound like it, but how you become an REnvTech is actually a fairly straightforward process, and all the information about the process can be found in the Registered Environmental Technician Practice Direction. However, today, I hope to make it a bit easier to understand and remove any obstacles you may feel are in your way. I will be explaining the eligibility criteria, the route to registration, application process, and assessment. And there will be plenty of time at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. Currently, we have 25 constituent bodies, and here are their logos. Congratulations, Phil. You have got them all onto one slide. Covering a very wide range of disciplines, from engineering to forestry to science to water and many others in between, our constituent bodies are important as they are also our licence bodies, and as such help design and maintain standards. Currently, we have 2 constituent bodies licensed to assess and register REnvTech candidates. Please bear in mind, there may be slight variations in the terminology used, but whichever licensed body you join and apply through, you will be required to meet the same minimum standard, so one isn't easier than the other. There are other constituent bodies who are considering applying for an REnvTech licence in 2018, so if your professional body isn't one of these 2, please speak to them, that's your professional body, and encourage them to apply for a licence so you can apply for REnvTech through them. These are the eligibility criteria. They are taken from the REnvTech practice direction and seem fairly straightforward. You need to be a member of a licensed body, have knowledge up to at least level 3, have some experience, be able to demonstrate your knowledge, comply with our code of conduct, and do CPD. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But there is a process you will need to follow, a route to registration. It is a thorough and professional route and called the application process route. Yes, it's the only route to registration, and it comprises of 2 elements, namely the application form and the written submission. There may be a 3rd element, a professional review interview. But for now, let's go into a bit more detail about the eligibility criteria. Educational qualifications. You will need to have acquired knowledge up to level 3. That's A-level or NVQ or national certificate. But whatever your academic qualifications, their levels are relevant, shall be determined by your licensed body. We suggest you ask your licensed body before you apply to advise you if your qualifications are relevant. Relevance will be guided by the environmental and sustainable development content of the course and alignment to the REnvTech competencies in groups A and B. I've just mentioned them very briefly, but they are so important they deserve their own slides. The REnvTech competencies. They are conveniently put into 4 groups. A, application of knowledge and understanding of the environment to further the aims of sustainability. B, actively support sustainable management of the environment. Now, these will be focused on your particular discipline. C, effective communication and interpersonal skills. D, personal commitment to professional standards, recognizing obligations to society, the profession, and the environment. Sometimes groups C and D are called the generic soft skills because they will be the same across all sectors, but they are no less important than A and B, and you will still need to achieve and evidence them. Practical experience. You will need to have at least the equivalent of 2 years full-time relevant work-based practice, though this need not be continuous. However, it does need to have a direct and distinct environmental focus and/or context. It may comprise paid employment, voluntary activity, or work placements, but may not include pure educational study. Experience that develops general professional competencies, for example, general communication, presentation skills, and management skills, may be included at the discretion of your licensed body and in proportion to the REnvTech competencies. The nature of relevant work-based practice will reflect the domain of your licensed body, but it is a requirement that it should be environmental in nature and clearly reflect the REnvTech competencies. You will need to complete the application form provided by your licensed body and demonstrate that you satisfy the eligibility criteria for registration as a REnvTech. The application form shall also include a commitment to continuing professional development and to the Code of Professional Conduct. You will need to submit written evidence which demonstrates achievement of all REnvTech competencies suitably and sufficiently to satisfy your licensed body. This should ordinarily include examples and be cross-referenced to your CV and demonstrate the relevance of your qualifications and/or experience. All written evidence needs to be validated by at least 2 mentors, sponsors, or supervisors, who shall confirm the authenticity of your application and that it fairly represents your ability and achievements. Ideally, the mentors, sponsors, or supervisors should be registered environmental technicians or chartered environmentalists. Their relationship to you and the number of years known needs to be specified. Now, if you do not clearly meet the eligibility criteria, or the assessors are in any doubt whether the evidence presented by you clearly demonstrates that the competencies are met, your licensed body may, at its discretion, invite you to a professional review interview to clarify the written application or to seek additional evidence. A PRI, lasting about 45 minutes, may be conducted using video conferencing or other facilities that enable the participants to see and hear each other, providing your licensed body has robust protocols in place for this process. Telephone interviews or interviews using any medium by which the participants cannot see each other are not allowed. In all cases, whether the interview is conducted remotely or not, your licensed body will take appropriate steps to satisfy themselves of your identity before you participate in the interview. Assessment. The assessors will assess you against all competencies using the evidence obtained from your application, written submission, and PRI if you had one. They may recommend that you should be registered as an REnvTech only if you have demonstrated all the competencies to a satisfactory level. Post-assessment. Your licensed body shall satisfy itself that your application has been validated and that you are deemed suitable for registration as a registered environmental technician. Normally, your licensed body will advise you in writing of the outcome within 2 months of the assessment. So there it is, a fairly simple and straightforward process, and one which I hope you will follow. So what now? We'll do what is listed on the screen. Think of it as a mini checklist. But before that, do we have any questions, Phil?
We do indeed. So first of all, thank you very much to Geoff for the insight into how to become a registered environmental technician. I hope everyone watching found that really useful. Before we go on to questions that have been asked during the webinar, when you registered, there was an opportunity to ask questions in the registration process. So we have a few of those we're going to run through. So the first question we have here, is REnvTech available to those with no work experience in the UK? So that's an interesting one to start off with, Geoff.
Absolutely, yes. Yes, it really doesn't matter where you've got the work experience from, as long as it is environmental in nature and about sustainability. Overseas, not a problem at all.
So that was a nice, easy response.
Go for it.
Excellent. So the next question we had in, if you are a member of more than one professional body, does it matter which one you apply for REnvTech through? And can you change it? And obviously we only have the 2 licensed bodies at the moment, but Geoff?
It doesn't matter, but it would be better to apply to the one that is relevant to your work experience, qualifications. But you've got to meet the same standard. But as I said it during the webinar, during the presentation, there are going to be slight differences, maybe in use of terminology, maybe in the things that are talked about within your application that are more appropriate to one than the other. Currently, I mean, if you're involved with the water industry, one would imagine it will be iWater. If you're involved with environmental sciences, well, it's fairly obvious that you go with IES. But if you are a member of both of those, or more than one, it's up to you which one you apply through.
Well, I guess you could be an environmental scientist within the water sector, but then you just see...
Of course you could.
There you go.
There you are.
I guess you'd then have the conversation with each of the licensed bodies to see what they both do and see which one.
Exactly.
Okay. The next question we had in was, who is the best contact to discuss an initial application at the Institute of Water? Okay. So for this question, because I knew about it beforehand, I put together a slide specifically for this, if I can get onto it. There we go. So with it being the 2 licensed bodies, it was nice and easy to fit the contact details, or the main contact details for any questions, and to start off the application process within each of the licensed bodies. So on the screen, you've got the main contact there for the Institute of Water, which is Sarah Dunn, and you've got her details below her name. And we also have the details for the main contact at the IES. So that's Lisa Abbott. I'll leave that up there for now, and we'll move on to the next question, so that to answer the question, who would be the best contact at the Institute of Water, the answer is now on your screen. So give Sarah an email or a call, and she'll happily walk through the process with you and answer any questions that you might have. If you wanted to have a chat with us first, then please feel free to do so. You saw my details at the start of the webinar and Geoff's a little bit later on. So we'll leave that up for a second.
I'm very pleased, because that's exactly who I was going to say to contact. So thank you.
Excellent. I aim to be one step ahead sometimes.
Yes.
Okay, and the last question we had through the registration process, and I think we had this question at the last webinar as well, so I assume it's from the same person, but it's a good question. It's very useful as well. So once I'm successful in becoming an REnvTech, how would I continue to remain registered? Geoff?
Well, the main thing you need to be committed to is continuing professional development. You need to do CPD to remain current and remain relevant, and that's of core importance to remaining registered. I suppose you've got to pay the relevant fees as well, but the main thing is to make sure that you're still up to date with what's happening in your sector. CPD is how you do that. So that's the main thing.
And is the CPD set by the Society for the Environment, or is it a licensed body thing?
It would be your licensed body that would determine whether or not what your CPD, the CPD you've done, is sufficient and relevant. We do, as the Society for the Environment, have we are introducing from 2019 sampling of CPD, which we're asking each licensed body to undertake. So that's the only thing that we stipulate. But actual quality and quantity of CPD is something that your licensed body would decide.
Brilliant. So have a chat with your licensed body and see what their specific requirements are, and then you can make the decisions from there. Okay, so that was the last question we had in beforehand. And now on to the questions that we've had during the webinar. Bear with me, this takes a little bit longer because I've got a couple to read. The first question we've got here, now I'm not going to mention any names, just so you know. So the questions that you're asking are completely anonymous, so don't worry about that. We'll just ask the questions without mentioning any names. So the first question we have here is REnvTech something that is known to employers and therefore useful when applying for jobs? Now that's, I guess, slightly tricky for us to answer, but
it is known to employers to some, but we would love it to be known by more, and to be more part of any sort of application process for jobs. It would give REnvTech the recognition it deserves. So yeah, I mean, it is known to some employers, but it's certainly something that if you've got it, you should be proud of it and make sure it is included in your application. It's something to be proud of. So.
And we are aware that in certain organisations, for example, I know that the Anglian Water are very keen on professional development, and they have a number of registered environmental technicians on their books, as well as even more chartered environmentalists. And from the last webinar that we did, which was titled "Why Become an REnvTech," and that included discussions with a registered environmental technician and a chartered environmentalist, both from Anglian Water. And David Mann, who was the chartered environmentalist, he suggested that seeing REnvTech on a CV would certainly stand out when applying, when employing a new team member at Anglian Water. So there are examples out there that do show that it's very much worth having in terms of showcasing your expertise to employers.
And of course, there is the other aspect that it could quite often lead to being paid more. You've got something that sets you apart from others applying. It might attract, and even if just you're in work and you obtain REnvTech, that might actually in itself lead to a pay award. I do know of one organisation that have set up a bonus scheme for people that get REnvTech. So it's certainly worth getting.
Yeah, it very much depends on the organisation that you're working for and that you're applying for the job with. Yeah, okay. The next question looks like a relatively simple question, but we'll see how it goes. What are the costs that are involved in becoming a REnvTech?
Okay, well, the initial registration fee is £15. The annual registration fee is £15. So when initially first registered for that first year, it's an excellent value, £30.
So that's the registration for the year and the application. They added together, and then you got that. Once you've passed, you have to.
What we charge the licensed body for registering somebody as an REnvTech is £15 for that initial registration and £15 in subsequent years. So that first year, we charge the licensed body £30, and following years, £15, which is very good value. Now, whether or not the licensed body charge an assessment fee or added cost. That's not something that we are involved with or we're particularly concerned with. So all we can say is our costs, our charge is £30 in that first year. It would be another case of speaking to the licensed body, to your licensed body, and asking, well, how much is this going to cost? Because they might have costs involved in carrying out the assessment.
So essentially, the costs could vary between licensed bodies potentially.
They could do. The one cost that we know about is that £30 in the initial first year. But as I say, I've said it before, it is very good value.
Certainly is. I did say it was a simple question, but it might not be so simple.
Absolutely.
The next question, again, potentially sounds simple, but what are the benefits of becoming a registered environmental technician? Well, as Geoff said, it's quite good value for a start, which is nice. But you do get to use the post-nominals, REnvTech, after your name. So that gives you a certain amount of kudos with potential employers or current employers. And then you also have the certificate, which you can display at your, wherever you like, at your place of work or wherever that might be. Obviously, you can take it along to job interviews and so on. So that's always useful to have. You also have the recognition of expertise from clients and employers or contractors, that kind of thing. We heard, again, going on to last webinar, we heard during that webinar from Steve Coles, who was the REnvTech involved in the webinar. He suggested that it added a level of confidence when speaking with contractors and higher management within Anglian Water. And Steve found that he had more influence and his opinions on environmental matters were taken into account as an expert in the area. So he was seen as, you know, the environmental expert within his patch, which he found extremely useful. So if you wanted to hear more, go back to that webinar and have a listen to that one. That's a really useful insight. You also get regular email newsletters, and you can sign up to our newsletters anyway, which you can do via our website, but we also send out different newsletters or opportunities to you via email if you sign up to receive those. There are also networking opportunities at events, as well as discounts at events, and I'm sure there are many other benefits, but that's just a few to start off with. So we'll move on to the next question. Can you use experience from outside of work? So we've already had the outside of the UK. This one's outside of work, so personal interests, that kind of thing, within the application. I assume you must be able to.
Yeah, I think any application that's got a good mix of activities and experience is going to be better than one that it just focuses on work. If it illustrates that your experience is nicely rounded and covers a number of things, it's got to be better. So yes, you absolutely should include experience from outside work. It might be something that will make up that little bit that's missing from your experience. Well, actually, I've done that on a voluntary basis. You don't necessarily need to have been paid for it. So, yeah, include it. Go for it.
Excellent.
Definitely.
So the next question we have here is, are there any mentors that can assist with the application? And I also have another question similar to that, which is, what if you can't find or don't know any chartered environmentalists or registered environmental technicians to be mentors? So are there any? And if there are, what if you can't find one to assist? Is that a possibility?
We encourage our licensed bodies, whether it be for REnvTech or chartered environmentalists, to run a mentoring scheme, and some do and some don't. It would be your licensed body that would be able to put you in touch with other members who are either REnvTech or chartered environmentalist to talk to you about how to apply and what's a good way to go about the application, and act as a mentor. We don't have details of mentors ourselves, and it would be something that your licensed body, your professional body, would be able to better assist you with. But it certainly is a valuable thing to have, and something that even if you're fairly confident that, you know, I can fill in this application, I can do my written submission, everything's going to be fine, it's good to have a check with somebody else, isn't it? Checking that everything is right, so get another opinion, and someone who's been through the process already. Don't do this, don't do that. Avoid those pitfalls, and it could really make the experience a lot easier for you and a lot more satisfactory. So I would definitely try and find a mentor, but you do that through asking your licensed body.
So it sounds like it would be a really useful thing to have.
Absolutely.
They would have been through the process, I guess, already. So,
well, as I say, they can not only give advice on what you should be doing, but also things that you shouldn't do. Don't put that in there because that won't. But if you do that, you know, and help, I mean, make sure that the application is in its best possible state, best possible condition. It would be what they would do or assist you with. So it's definitely a thing to go for.
Perfect. So have a word with your licensed body and see where you can take it from there. Right, the next question we have here. How would you summarize the key differences between REnvTech and CM? So between Registered Environmental Technician Register and the Chartered Environmentalist Register?
Well, that is a very good question, yes. Okay, well, the main differences are in the amount of practical work experience you need. The eligibility criteria state that for REnvTech it needs to be a minimum of 2 years, for a chartered environmentalist minimum of 4 years. So that's the experience side of things. And then the other difference in academic or educational requirements. The minimum level for REnvTech is a level 3, and as I said in the webinar, that's a NVQ or a national certificate or something like that. That's at level 3.
Would it be A levels as well? Is that right?
Actually, A levels, yeah.
Okay.
They're a level 3, yeah. Whereas chartered environmentalist asks for up to master's level. So you're talking level 7 or the equivalent of, don't necessarily need a master's degree. And you could have a master's degree and still apply to become an REnvTech. It's just the minimum levels that you require. So those are the two big differences. I'd suggest that the REnvTech is going to be more relevant to people in a more specifically technical job or role. But the important thing to remember is both are environmental professionals.
Okay.
It's just one is a level quite a bit below the other.
So that might give us a bit of an idea, or might give you a bit of an idea of which one to go for. But we do have the webinars on both of them. So if you wanted to have a look at the Chartered Environmentalist webinars, then please do so. That might give you a bit more of an insight. The last question we have for today is, what happens if my initial application doesn't meet the requirements? Can I apply again straight away? And is there another cost to reapply?
3 questions for the price of 1.
This is true.
Excellent. Well, yes. Okay. Well, if your initial application doesn't meet the requirements, you could apply again straight away. But I would suggest that if you have been unsuccessful, your professional, your body will tell you where you have gaps, where you haven't quite reached the criteria, haven't quite met the standards. And so to apply straight away probably wouldn't give you enough opportunity, enough chance to actually fill those gaps. It may be that they say, well, you need a bit more experience, or you need to complete this course at this particular level. So you could apply straight away, but it's probably more sensible to reflect on why you weren't successful with the original application. See what you can do to fill those gaps, and then apply again. Now, the cost to reapply, we don't charge anything for applying. We charge for registration. So if your professional body, your licensed body, actually, they may charge you again. That's something that you'd need to discuss with them. But we charge for registration, not for application. That's something that they would be involved with. Does that help?
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
So do I.
So that brings us to the end of the questions. So thank you very much for those who have sent in the questions live and those who sent in the questions before the webinar started. Main thing to say now is a very big thank you to Geoff for all of the information he's provided today. So thank you very much, Geoff.
Been a pleasure.
Excellent. Now, there's a couple of more things here. If you need any more information, then go to our website, which is on your screen now. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the Chartered Environmentalist or Registered Environmental Technician registers, then we do have a number of other webinars available on our website and on our YouTube channel. The website address is on your screen now. We also have World Environment Day coming up, which is the 5th of June, and we are holding an event, which is the awards and lectures on World Environment Day. And you're more than welcome to come along. The registration is available on our website and all the details. We have some fantastic speakers, and we'll be awarding the Environmental Professional of the Year award on the evening. So please come along to that. And that's about it from us. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you very much.